We are back. We are live at Vapour Labs in London. Vapour. Sorry about that. When Theo logged out, he pressed the wrong button and it took us off air. Very professional. Speaking of professionalism, Susanne from BitNation still isn't here. This is a room full of people that have all come and they've all been waiting for a while now. And no sign of Susanne. So it's quite a small, cramped room down here. We're all very hot, but we're all talking about the price of Bitcoin at the moment. Why is it going up? Who knows? Who knows? Buy, sell. It's all speculation. So let me just go on to the face cam. You can see my ugly face. So we do actually have, one of the benefits of switching the live stream was that we now do have Q&A back again. I'm not sure why that wasn't working, because I definitely clicked on it. But so if we do get anyone from BitNation, you can of course ask your questions here, and we will try to relay those for you. Hello. And Jamie is back. Jamie's got some cool graphics for us, haven't you, Jamie? We're live on air. Funky graphics. Paid for by you, the audience member, very kindly. So we can buy equipment, so we can do stuff like new microphones that we have at the moment. And down in the description below, you will find Bitcoin addresses for Thomas, who has very kindly donated some professional mic equipment so that we can start testing that out. And also my address as well. So if you feel generous, it would be good to get like a deck of Bitcoin or something. Just so, sorry. Oh, one sec. Something's happening. One sec.
Quiet, please. Susanne hasn't turned up, and she's on her way up from Wimbledon, which means I don't know how long that will take. We can either do a Q&A panel in the interim, we can wait a bit, or we can all hit the pub next door, which is like 20 metres that way. What do people want to do?
Show of hands, free.
Yeah, show of hands for Q&A and keep waiting.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Right, they want to wait.
And pub? And pub? And pub after Q&A?
Pub's going to feature then.
Right, if she's not here by 7, we'll hit pub.
Can you come down to the pub?
That's another 10 minutes.
Yeah, mate. Sorry for that.
Yeah, sorry.
Hopefully it will resolve itself.
It's your fault. We blame you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to pass the buck on to Susanne. No, it's, I don't know. Yeah, no, sorry what happened like this, but they've obviously had a couple of press issues being sorted out. And I'm going to make no comment on that, but no, hopefully she'll turn up in the next 10 minutes after we do a Q&A discussion.
Can we have a sort of Satoshi Dice betting game on if he turns up or not?
Yeah, we could start doing
if you
some
want
contracts.
to play some stakes, who's doing the odds? We have a bookmaker.
I bet you have.
Well, gambling's illegal here in the United States, so I can't be involved.
I don't think we have that problem here in the UK. I have to switch back to my mic. So I am testing out my new mic equipment, and so I've recently.
Sounds good now.
It does sound good. That's really great. I'm so glad. It cost enough money. And this is money I could have spent on food, and I spent it on one of these. And Thomas and I have been playing around with it the last few days. You have to be very careful with it, because if it gets unplugged, it's a nightmare. You have to restart everything. But yeah, we've got a Zoom mic. Let me just see. I just want to give a shout out to someone actually for helping me out with all of my sound issues. And it's 1 bit by bit. Let me just pull this gentleman's page up.
I want to give a shout out to Sumitra too for all the help he's been doing with the time stamping. He's been going through all our videos and putting timestamps of all the different parts, so you don't have to listen to all our drivel afterwards, and you can just go straight to the part you want to go to afterward.
It's very entertaining dribble though, and people really do like it, but the timestamps are invaluable just because it helps people edit the video for themselves, so you can then voluntarily choose to listen to whatever drivel you want, and that's very useful. So yeah, just big shout out to 1 bit by bit, who has been helping me out with advice on which microphones to get, and we really do want to like improve the quality of these live streams for you and try and get you better graphics, get you better sound, so that we can actually live stream the revolution as it's being decentralized live on World Crypto Network. And we encourage you to either join us or fork us. Up to you. If you like what we're doing, please reach out to us, and then you can get involved. And if you need help building your confidence as a presenter, maybe you've got something you want to say, we can help you do that. If you're already pretty good at presenting, you don't need our help, that's okay too. You can just set up your own YouTube channel, and we'll definitely promote you and support you if you're in the same kind of field, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing a lot with James Bang in Hong Kong too, covering the protests and stuff there. And you know, that's one thing that we just kind of want to document history as it happens. And there's a lot of things out in the world that aren't getting documented that we just maybe we don't see a lot of impartial reporting these days. And you know, we probably have our own biases too. Everybody's human and has a bias towards something, but you know, we bring a little bit different perspective than the mainstream media, I think, and plus we just get a lot more footage out there that isn't being seen because mainstream media will show you, you know, a 2-minute clip of just all the action sequences of a protest or something, and that gives the perception that that's all that happens in these things, where in reality there's hours upon hours and days of nothing happening.
What I think we do really well is we keep stories warm when the mainstream press gets diverted onto bigger stories. So we can still cover the stuff that they can't really cover, and keep that present, keep that alive, and then take people back to that when the mainstream picks it up again.
Yeah, and we've been able to help facilitate some fundraising for food for people that are helping out with the first aid, and just get people some warm meals on the ground there in Hong Kong, and help get James some better camera equipment. So now we're broadcasting in high definition video from there. He's been doing some really outstanding work, and we could actually, if you have some time, and we're trying to grow in Asia, if you're in Asia, or if you sleep during the same times that Asia does, we could really use help with people that are awake during the times that Asia is, because we could sure use some help with the network, because we are just a few people right now, and a lot of people are expecting us to do things like CNN and Fox News and stuff, but when there's only 2-3 of us on one broadcast, it's really hard to bring the level of broadcasting journalism that people are used to seeing from the mainstream media, but we're really trying hard.
Yeah, we are. And James has really taken a hit for us. You know, he raised $1,000 on Reddit. He then had his phone stolen, but we've reimbursed those funds. He's been buying food. He's bought himself a new camera with his own money. You know, he reimbursed the stolen funds with his own money. We've got a new wallet address. It's a very teachable moment. And right now we're not raising any more money for Hong Kong just because we think we've raised enough, and we haven't got a lot that we need to do with it in any case, right? Like, they're pretty self-sufficient, and that's a good thing. But we, you know, if they need anything, we're going to be ready for them. And as you say, right now what we need isn't so much money, although that would really help feed us, actually, but not just much money really. It's also about participation and help. If we've got anyone in a time zone that's near the Far East in Hong Kong area, that would be great, because then we can actually get a live stream up and running for James as soon as he needs it. So it looks like Susanne is here. She's just walked in the door. So let me go take over for me, Jamie, and then I'll see what's going on.
Okay. Okay, Susanne, the CEO of BitNation, has arrived, I guess. Chris is going to switch the camera over at the Vapour bar that they're at. Apparently, that's all they do there, is they have some sort of vapor thing for some vapor smoking type deal there. I'm not really sure what that's all about, but But it seems to be a pretty good crowd. There was a lot of controversy yesterday, especially with BitNation and Cointelegraph and Bitcoin Magazine put out articles about 3 people from BitNation resigning and their resignation letters. So actually, I was kind of surprised that Susanne was still going on with this, and they're still moving forward. So this is going to be interesting. I'm really curious to see what Susanne has to say. And, you know, I know Susanne a little bit from chatting with her through Facebook, and I know a couple of the guys that I've chatted with through Facebook too on that resigned. So this was something I had been communicating with these people from BitNation, and I told Chris about this last week, and he'd started looking into it, and we thought that we should just, you know, figure out what's going on with BitNation and bring our viewers, let our viewers decide for themselves what BitNation is about, and you know, give our commentary and see if we can learn more about it. So,
well, Susanne is here, but she's just introducing herself. It's quite noisy in here, as you can probably tell. So this is me down here. Hello. And so she's just arrived.
Is that her there by the table?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, talking to, I think, Greg. You're live on air, David.
Yeah, David, he's present at almost everything we broadcast.
Jamie, it's Jamie. You can see him in the window. David says hello, Jamie. And we now, thanks to our new feed, we now have Q&A working. And Salmitra says thanks for the shout out, and he's quoting today's timestamps for the live stream. Thank you very much for that. It's all about the timestamps, all about making history. Yeah, let's switch back to camera. And we've also got some, what's the name of that camera software that you've been using?
Minicam, Minicam. M-A-N-Y-C-A-M.
Minicam.
Hey guys, Susanne's just arrived.
Yeah, it allows us to do some very cool things when we're broadcasting live, and I'm hoping I get my unlock key here pretty soon. I purchased the software with Bitcoin yesterday, and I'm waiting for the unlock code yet. So I would really appreciate it if they sent me my unlock code.
But that's not for this product, is it? You've already got this one.
No, that's for that product that I purchased yesterday with Bitcoin, and I haven't got the code yet.
Okay, but you can still use it. It's in demo mode, I guess.
Yes.
It looks pretty good, and you're saying that it's easy to set up and everything?
Oh, it's incredibly easy to use. It's just the demo version is limited on functions. You can do a lot more with the paid version. So I'm just hoping to get the paid version here real soon, and then we can go back to, you know, we can do a lot more live, and I'll be able to play videos, pre-recorded videos during my live broadcasts, and be able to have picture-in-picture type stuff, and it'll allow us to play more of a produced show in a live setting, which has been really difficult for us to do in the past, and I think it'll really up our broadcasts. And Mr. Chris Ellis is froze on my screen, unfortunately. They have some glitchy internet at the Vapour bar there. So we're going to just...
So am I okay now? Is my bandwidth a bit better?
Yep.
Great, that's good. I think we just kind of went out in terms of bandwidth, and I just kind of reset a little. few things. So hopefully that's going to get a little bit better for us. So
Yes, you got to
Susanne's-
quit watching porn while we're broadcasting.
Quit downloading those torrents, Chris. Come on. So lovely. Look at the. Apparently these light bulbs are very expensive and they get very hot here at the Vape Lab, and we're not to break them or touch them or get electrocuted. So I'm going to have to turn this off as soon as it starts heating up. It's very, very small down here, but it's actually a lovely place. If you are in London, authentic, non-paid advertisement. I do recommend Vape Lab. A lot of us hackers come here and we hang out upstairs and we have coffee, and they also sell these new e-cigarettes. I'm not really into that sort of thing, but if you are, then it's the place to go apparently. And they also do coffee and
Do they
beer,
sell
I think,
beer
at the end of the
there?
week. Yeah, but they don't
do
have a
have beer?
license from the regulator. They do have beer, but only for the end of the week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, not for the weekdays, because it's all regulated. The regulators got to get a license for that, you know. It's not anarchy.
You got to have license.
Hey, okay.
You got to have
Switch
license to
cameras.
have beer during the school week.
Yep, that's
No
correct.
beer on a
Certainly
school
do.
night.
Okay. So
What is the
getting ready.
drinking age in London or in England?
So where should I be?
You can take that mic. That's yours. As soon as
Hi,
you're ready, let me-
Suzanne.
Yeah,
Hi.
yeah.
Hi.
Like stars and wheels.
You can almost stand up on that if you want. Just talk out to people.
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
Don't know how it's going to work with the camera though. You might be a bit too close. I can just focus on them actually.
Maybe here.
Yeah, you could do that.
Otherwise, I would have.
How do people feel about it?
It's fine. You can do the camera.
Yeah, I can do the camera.
That would
Oh yeah, we can.
Yeah, let's get the camera on Suzanne.
Yeah.
do you have that electronic cigarette?
Your one not working. I'm just waiting for you.
Yeah, I know.
Try it.
It's
Right.
horrible.
Have you got my
Sure.
one?
I'm totally buying a new one tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, you can use this one for now.
Fantastic.
Louis always comes to the
I
rescue.
do have a use.
Thank you so much. Oh, wow. That's a fancy one. Yeah.
Oh, I don't fucking know.
Exchanging advice on e-cigarettes.
Marshmallow and peanut butter.
I don't endorse this product.
Do you want to do it up here or?
Yeah, now here's
I
fine.
endorse real cigarettes.
Are they smoking crack on air?
No, they're definitely not doing that. Okay, over to you, Suzanne.
All right. Is the mic working?
Yes, but only for the live stream, not for the audience.
Oh, right. Okay. So for the audience, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay, well, I'm really pleased to see so many people here tonight. There's obviously a great interest for BitNation, which I think is fantastic. So just to give you a short introduction of myself first, I'm the CEO of BitNation. I'm from Sweden originally, half Polish, half French, but I grew up in Sweden. I've been living across the world for many years, and I spent about half a decade in war zones in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, Egypt, and so forth, watching how governments were being built and then how they were overthrown, you know. And that gave me a lot of time to reflect on what good governance is and how to do that. So I always been a fan of open borders. I think it's ridiculous that there are 7 billion people on Earth who should only have access to, I think it's about 198 or something nation states right now. That would be sort of saying like all 7 billion people on Earth should only agree to having 200 food plates to choose between, or 200 songs to listen to, or 200 whatever to listen to. I don't think that is fair in any ways. It's a monopoly, and the goal of BitNation is to defeat that monopoly. And and yeah, so we just want to show people that through the blockchain being a public ledger which is distributed and open for everybody to see, etc., people can can, it replaced the role of the government as an arbitrator, essentially. The blockchain becomes the arbitrator. The blockchain becomes a trusted third party. And along those lines, I set up BitNation to show that basically everything that the government does can be replaced through the blockchain technology. Not everything, but most of the things. And yeah, so that's a bird's eye view. So what we're trying to do with BitNation is to essentially provide. So we have identified the core strands of governance, which is law, as in dispute resolution. It's insurance, as in social security, etc. It is security. It's diplomacy, and the package that comes with that. And those are the most important strands, and social services as well, which includes things like education as well. So yeah, that's the introduction. Any questions? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, congratulations on the brilliant project. My question, obviously, as a grand vision, that's profound. But from getting from A to Z, or one of any on governance through the blockchain, there's kind of many kind of bridges to cross, I guess. And in the meantime, on its own, it doesn't bring down existing states or laws or governance, so they have to coexist. How do you see that panning out? On if people start to BitNation now, how would that truly affect them in terms of real governance? Because they'd still ultimately come under.
Thank you so much. Well, aspect. It's a very valid question indeed. So essentially, if you are in the West world like we are now, right, there are many people in the West world who do not want to use governance services for ideological reasons and also for financial and time-wise reasons, because it's just too slow and too efficient. And we offer a faster and more efficient service. Also, I mean, let's say if you're a gay person in Mississippi and you want to get married, the law provides for it. You still want to sign a contract to make it official amongst your peers, and a contract on the blockchain also allows you to divide your rights, etc. Like you can tie land deeds to it. You can tie a child contract to Wall Street. So there are many reasons why people in the West world should think about using BitNation rather than their own governance services. However, that's not where our market is really. So
Sorry, we're having a little bit of bandwidth problems there at the
Yeah.
Vapour lab.
Or it's NSA jamming. But I think it just could be. I think with a problem, one part of the problem is that
there are people selling basic goods, etc. And there are a multitude of people. It's entire.
I think it's the time of day, actually. 7 p.m. in London on a Tuesday evening.
So to answer your question, I think there's a massive demand for these services.
It may just be a high use time for internet in that area.
So
they have a cable modem or something.
Is that the case?
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I will. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we might just have to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, quite. Yeah. Okay. Smart contracts is a very important part of the platform, yeah. I wouldn't call BitNation a smart contract platform exactly. I mean, some of the services we provide, like diplomacy, for instance, is not even blockchain-based at all or technical at all. They are completely outside of that realm. So I have seen some comments in the Bitcoin world of people saying like, oh, well, you haven't developed any unique technology, you haven't developed any unique code. And I say, no, well, our business is to assemble the best code out of there that's out right now, assemble it, provide a UI, UX, and distribute it to a $10 trillion economy. And that's a huge thing on its own. And so yeah, smart contracts is a part of our platform. Yeah, it's an important part of it, but it's not the end of it. Yeah.
And my follow-on to that is this: looking at governance and contracts and deeds generally. The reason that these are issued by national governments normally is that they're enshrined in national law, which gives them a basis for dispute and argument. How will agreements that are signed up in the Bitcoin Nation platform have any validity outside of the users of the Bitcoin Nation platform?
Primary target is SystemD and developing nations, where people want regardless. So anything that's sort of, well, for lack of a better word, informally agreed upon is more reliable than something that the government have issued because of corruption and overwhelming bureaucracy. So, so yeah, in those areas, that's a non-issue to start with. In like the West world, where we actually do have a degree of trust for governments, more of an issue. But it's just like Bitcoin. So when people started Bitcoin, they said like, well, this is not money. This is just a couple of geeks creating algorithm, and that's what everybody thought, right? Until critical mass adoption came to be. And when there was critical mass adoption, everybody acknowledged that it was de facto money because it was used as money. And that's the same thing with contracts. So, yeah.
So sorry to labor a point, but I did disagree somewhat. In the case of Bitcoin, the state of when it reached critical mass was when there were enough users distributed around the world to be able to make transactions between each other that had an ascribed value. In contracts, you tend to be dealing with people that are very local. Critical mass, what you usually need is critical mass within communities rather than critical mass. Even with Bitcoin penetration, as a percentage of the number of people in the world that are using Bitcoin, I don't think all Bitcoin users in the world ascribing to the platform there's anything close to critical mass to agree a contract between two sort of parties that might be close to each other.
So that's actually why one of the most important part of BitNation is our ambassador network. I would say that's more important than the tech, in fact. So we have built out an ambassador network all over the world. It's now covering every single region. And those are people, essentially local Bitcoin enthusiasts and entrepreneurs who are going out to their local community, finding out what their governance problem is and how they can adopt the BitNation platform to it. And so let's say says, okay, land deeds is the biggest problem in Botswana right now. And that is hindering economic growth, it's causing conflicts, so forth. Then they go out, they say, okay, well, we have a DApp where you can register land and over time deed it. And they go out and they say, well, okay, well, this doesn't work out because in Botswana, this particular context of Botswana, the elders of the village have to sit together and say that is true, right? Maybe that's the case. I don't know about Botswana particularly, but this is as an example, right? And so in that case, the local ambassador just forked the DApp, put in those changes, upload the dApp to our system again, sell it or give it away, whatever he wishes, and then it's locally adapted. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's a challenge to adapt the network locally in all the regions, absolutely. But and that's why we have created a very modular platform and a network of ambassadors. Yes.
I mean, it all sounds great. You know, the whole platform and the whole concept of you know, smart contracts and being able to present it in a way that kind of blankets, you know, giving that World Wide Web effect, you know. But at the end of the day, this is all approached in stages. And whew, I got to be honest with you, we're really far away from this. We've got a lot of other issues that need addressing, and those issues are really important to highlight. And I mean, this is great to build up to, and having that solution to where we all feed into that kind of platform and get to that, you know, focal point is great. But you know, you have a lot of legacy payment institutions and financial companies that know exactly that this is an issue, and what they're going to do is they're going to start turning on solutions that will do exactly this very, very soon. And it's that adoption. I think Paul was mentioning, you know, how do we bridge this with this legacy environment? You know, how do we do that? How do we all coexist in a framework that's, you know, innovative and beneficial to, you know, all ecosystems and industries? So there is again, you know, we have a lot of work to do on this, you know, this not 0.9 or 1.0 level in order to kind of get to these other stages. You know, so listening to all this stuff is great, but you know, we have a lot of areas to address in these markets, in these developing markets, and you know what, they really don't care about smart contracts and decentralization, and you know, they need money, they need water, they need roads, they need infrastructure, they need a lot of things more than this right now.
So you say they don't care about smart contracts. Okay, so if you can't deed your house, you can't borrow against your house, you can't invest in land, that is a huge economic downturn. You know, if they care about money, they should care about smart contracts, in fact, because that will enable their financial status. If they can't get legally married, meaning they can't share their assets in a secure way, and you know, if they can't incorporate their business, if you are a fruit vendor in Indonesia who's trying to set up a fruit shop and you can't offer securities because let's say the government takes 104 days to incorporate, and you won't go through it because it's just incredibly expensive and dysfunctional, and instead you can just incorporate on the blockchain instantly, and then you can sell securities to your friends and families to set up a small business to afford to go from being a street vendor to having a fruit shop. You know, if they care.
Take us through the steps that get us there.
Huh?
It's not legal at the moment.
Well, okay. Well, okay. So right. So who cares if it's legal? Because I mean, if we're talking about System D, you know, we're talking about people who actually are cut out from the financial global system. Yeah, I mean, and they're cut out from the regulatory system as well. And so obviously the fruit stand on the road is not legal either. It's not incorporated anywhere either. You know, it's not nothing. You know, it's so that's the very definition of System D, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, how about enforcement? So Weber said that government is what, monopoly of violence? Yeah. So when you're in System D, the violence is usually local gangs, mafia of various sorts, yeah? So it will be implicit, inherent, vital and necessary for BitNation to incorporate physical violence. How do you intend to do that?
Wow, that's it. Tough question, yeah.
Do you mean by that they'll be forced to work with the gangs and the violent groups
Well, I mean, you've got all sorts of stuff in the history of cryptography about, use of contracts and assassination markets and so forth. I just basically think that enforcement of contracts is going to be vital, unless you restrict it to very niche forms of exchange of virtual value. So how you do that ethically, how you do that in a situation where you have just gang law, which often can be a form of security for people, is a vital question. So.
Okay, so I have three responses to that actually. Okay, so so the way we go about, as you say, retribution is the ID system, right? The ID system is based on both verification and reputation. Most importantly, reputation. So that is a preventive method, and it's not a perfect method, but it is preventive in some measures, right? Secondly, if you look at security properly, we do offer security service. That does not include hiring Blackwater and like kicking in doors, so at least not for a very long time ahead. So what it does include is a system essentially for neighborhood vigilantes, so people can organize neighborhood-wise and do that. And then third, when it comes to contract enforcement, I mean that sort of goes back to the reputation system, right? We will not, again, we will not sort of kick in doors or anything. People will just lose their reputation, and the reputation are key for all the business they are doing, from land deeds to corporate incorporations to business deals to marriage to, yeah.
Just to follow on from that, if you've got a distributed governance, you can't say we will not do that because someone else will.
Well, I mean, the concept is entirely forkable, so if you do that, I mean, that's outside of my power.
If there's a need for enforcement and the central authority, let's say BitNation, doesn't provide it, then the distributed marketplace of contracts will.
Yeah, well, if that happens, let it happen. I think I think it's better with a dynamic market of contract enforcement rather than a monopolistic one, so yeah.
What about like economic exclusion? So blocking them from buying certain products or services in order to exclude them from certain activities.
So you mean in the sense that there should be a system allowing for that? Right?
Yeah, so like they're sort of they're maybe built into the network. There's a way in which they can't buy products or services of a certain nature if they were to sort of violate the contract.
That's an interesting idea.
So if they, for instance, have got electricity contracts or something for their business on the BitNation, and they don't abide to another contract, or that one in particular, well, they don't have their electricity anymore, or gas, or water, or deliveries, whatever their address.
To be fair, I've never thought of that in a systematic type of way. I always thought that that would happen in a sort of organic way. Because if their reputation is bad and they don't pay contracts and they don't, etc., that will be instantly visible. So I never sort of thought about the need for doing it in a systematic manner. But now that you raised the question, it's actually a very interesting idea.
Yeah, I would say, organically, I don't know what that means. Obviously, we're talking about a digital system here, so we'd need to have something in place like an eBay sort of system where, if you don't get enough ratings or whatever, people know you're a bad actor in the network. So having something in there which says this guy screwed me over on his contract, then other people are going to be able to see it, and it won't be
absolutely. But I agree wholeheartedly. But that's a reputation system, right? I mean, I think it's one thing to say that if people can rate you and you have a reputation system, etc. It's another thing to say you will be literally cut off from signing these and these contracts. That requires a lot more thinking. But it's a very interesting. Yeah.
So for me, the most exciting part of BitNation is that idea that developing nations can skip a generation of useless computing knowledge, which is frankly learn Microsoft Word, Windows and Excel, and jump straight to learning decentralized application blockchain technologies. And this is where I find a really useful tool if the community got behind BitNation and we were able to build a syllabus that we could then distribute around the world on the blockchain in some decentralized storage, and we could have people within these communities building these dApps and not becoming Microsoft junkies in this sense. So,
So I'm not quite sure what the question was.
I'm just
oh, right, yeah.
ambassadorial network and
yeah.
furthest on.
Are we going to promote Linux as well and other open source projects? Is that part of it?
Oh, yeah, we should, yeah. I mean, we're basing most of the philosophy on Rick Felkvinger's Pirate Party philosophy. So, I mean, everything we do is 100% open source. We're only using open source code, and we encourage people to fork BitNation and create their own BitNation. I mean, what I personally want to see in the world is a world where, okay, so we're 7 billion people. I want to see at least 1,000 or maybe 1 million competing governments that all competes in a free and open market, just through offering the best services rather than violence, you know. And
ambassadorial network. I'm just interested, as there are already in plenty of developing countries people with very useful initiatives, both startups like say 37 Coins, or else individuals like the Botswana woman, Bitcoin lady. What attempts have you made so far, and what action has been taken to actually start these grassroots ambassadorial programs? Has there been any concrete progress made in setting up your network?
To be honest, not very much at this point, because I mean we're just starting off. We're 3 months old, so we're all a bit overwhelmed, you know, between the Take and the Ambassador Network and, you know, the financial side and all of it. So, so far we haven't actually done a whole lot when it comes to an Ambassador Network. We have recruited key individuals who understands the concept and who are local Bitcoin promoters in their area. And what we want them to do, really, I mean, I think what's key, so some of them have done sort of introduction videos and stuff saying this is why, you know, BitNation and self-governance, etc. But that's not really valuable. I mean, what's really valuable is for them to do polling, actually, and find out what the greatest need is in their communities. And
people who are making these valuable efforts in their communities, and rather than just going and setting up a separate network, my idea was that it was probably better to leverage the resources that were there already, who actually understood the benefits of this work.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do leverage several networks. So, well, the Bitcoin network to start with, like, or like Nana and Green Bitcoin Foundation, which have been extensively covered in Cointelegraph and other places. There is this woman in Botswana. I'm sorry, I can't recall the name of her right now. Yeah, Lakina. Yeah, exactly. So we are leveraging existing network very much so. I mean, we are leveraging the network of Bitcoin entrepreneurs across the world, and that's definitely what we want to do. I mean, we want to empower Bitcoin entrepreneurs all over the place, right? So we're not intending to recreate the wheel by any means. And then also, I mean, other networks we want to leverage is things like Startup Chile, Sandbox, like all the sort of startup networks around the world. Those are also very important target audiences.
So in this, I kind of understand the application for this in countries with you know, governments that are kind of falling apart. You know, if you offer them an alternative, then maybe they'll choose to be governed by, you know, BitNation. But I'm interested in context of this country. There are many people that run social projects because they're somewhat unengaged with the current governance. They don't believe in it. They don't subscribe to their morals, their their particular view of the future, and they don't feel like it's appropriate. I have a company that's an education company. We have our own beliefs, but we work within the education system. What I'm wondering is, how would BitNation potentially serve people like me who are trying to do just positive things that benefit society? Could we, in effect, subscribe to BitNation's governance and be governed by that? And in turn, would it be possible that people around the world could also subscribe to that governance? We could all be contributing to, in effect, a new education system.
First of all, I wish I knew more about the governance problems in UK, which I know absolutely nothing about. So it's hard for me to answer what particular problems BitNation would be able to solve in the UK.
In application in terms of education.
In terms of education, okay, that's a hard one. Okay, so in terms of education, would you provide education, as in the sense that we are assembling and leveraging several different open source education vehicles, like Khan Foundation, etc., etc. So Udemy, and so forth, and we're essentially negotiating prices with them to get it down to essentially nothing for people to use. So I mean that can all be leveraged, obviously, regardless of where in the world you're based. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's funny. Like, Max. Yeah. Okay, just give me 1 second. So I was on the Kaiser report recently, and he asked me, like, is BitNation providing passport? Let's say, you know, for the Scots who want independence, right? Can BitNation give them a passport? The 49% or whatever who did not agree to the vote of remaining to remain in UK. And I said, well, would you have a function that is called Bit Passport, which is an ID system? But no, we don't provide passports in the sense of actually enabling you to have a document that enables you to travel across borders, like nation-state borders, right? And then Max said, well, what if enough people joined? You know, what if, like, let's say 50% of the Brits were tired of their government and wanted to join BitNation? Would that then be valid? And that's sort of the crunch question right there, right? Because it's all about critical mass adoption by the end of the day. If enough people consider it as valid and enough people do it, then it is de facto valid. You know? So, yeah. I don't know if that exactly answered your question. Yeah. So you wanted to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, just an example of that, because I've got an educational project as well. There's a lot of them, like peer-to-peer university. So we do a peer-to-peer street school. We're constituted at the moment, you know, as an LLP, because we want other sort of academies to pop up and run their own open source project. Ideally, the whole kind of street peer-to-peer self-learning environment would be owned by the students and the learners themselves. So using something like Ethereum or BitNation, you would be able to constitute the payment of teachers, the learning, how it's passed on, the certification, the reputation, the infrastructure, and the legal entity as a global university which competes in terms of both its ability to organize and be efficient and financially be self-sustainable with traditional institutions.
Yeah.
So the way I see it really is that at the end of the day, we don't have to ask permission for human interaction. If we feel that something needs to happen in society, we can just do it. We don't need permission. So if you can provide some useful tools in order to fit some infrastructure around that in order to benefit the purpose, then that's a positive thing. To me, that seems pretty simple.
Yeah. There have been some recent media articles on BitNation, you know, about employees saying that they are resigning because we don't have a legal infrastructure in place, and I find that quite weird, to be honest, because what we are promoting is that we don't need the approval from the government to do all of those things. We're promoting self-governance indeed. We're promoting corporate incorporation on the blockchain. So that people are sort of shocked by that is sort of beyond my comprehension. But anyways,
you do need promotion. You do need support from the crowd, who you're asking for $2 million, is it? And you said that this is forkable, but there's no code yet on GitHub. Could you take us through the timeline of delivery and what conditions need to be met in order for you to take funds?
Okay, so the CrowdSale is over 3 months, and there are 6 delivery benchmarks, and we cannot release funds until the delivery benchmarks are met. And it's all on a public address, so I mean, people see what funds are in, you know.
Is that a multi-signature address?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And so essentially, it's basically our MVPs, minimum viable products. And so the requirement, the first steps of requirements is obviously the code being on GitHub and being downloadable so people can play around with it. And the second stage is UI, UX being added to it. So those are basically the 2 parameters.
And who decides if you've met those milestones or not?
Well, I mean, it's going to be out for the public to review. It's going to be on GitHub.
But I mean, who has the private keys to the multi-sig? Who has the power to release the funds, I guess? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say whoever holds the key because I don't want them to be targets. But
is there a conflict of interest if they were to be employees of BitNation? Should they be an independent party that should have some of the keys?
Well, actually, one of them is an independent party. Yeah, who is a trusted public figure in the space. So
you could make it so that the people who donate to the fundraiser get a vote per donation they make. Something like that.
Well, actually, I'm against voting because I just think the rule of the majority, mob rule, is a bad system of decision making. I think, you know, I think that's sort of perverted. I don't want my rights to be stripped away from me just because I'm not part of the majority. So I just don't think that's a legitimate way to make decisions. So.
Crypto-fascism, said David.
I mean, because the opposite to voting is an autocratic society, you know, which is a dictatorship. So that kind of goes against the decentralized thing. I'm very confused.
Well, the rule I'm following is holacracy. Holacracy? Yes, that's a thing, yes. Okay, so holacracy consists of a small core of people doing things, and then a large amount of people, independent agents, following those decisions if they deem like they want to do, and if they don't, they break out and they form their own holon, right? So this is what Rick Falkwinger used to build the Pirate Party. So the Pirate Party started in Sweden as, well, just one person's, you know, thing, right, Rick? And then it grew to an organization that spread over 70 countries. There are now pirate parties in 70 different countries that is built on that Holland strategy. And so, yeah, I think that's a much more powerful model than democracies. Yes.
Who provides the army in a holacracy?
Who provides the army?
So let's say there's a really well-organized democratic nation.
Yeah, okay. So I think, you know, that's sort of a philosophical question. Yeah, so okay. So right now, there is no answer for that. I think what will come down the road, which BitNation surely will not provide, but I am pretty sure other actors on the market will provide, is essentially crowd-funded armies. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, I mean, again, that's nothing we are striving to provide, but I'm pretty sure the market will at some point.
A private mercenary army.
Yeah.
That sounds very scary. Can you see why that might sound scary to people that are new to this?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, you know, I don't actually think it's that scary because you know, if you believe in, I suppose most of people in this room believe in democracy, right? So if you believe in democracy and you want to see something come true, then
the word democracy doesn't have anything to do with voting. It's to do with people power, demos, kratos, and really the amount of voting is necessary too, because information travels over boundaries so quickly now that voting every 4 years really is just outsourcing your power. You're giving it away. But if we were to vote on local issues more of the time, as they became relevant to us, can you see that playing a role? That kind of voting playing a role at a local level, devolved level?
well, the way I see it, I mean, I don't promote, I mean, for me, voting is just a decision-making system, a platform. You know, I don't really care. What I care about is choice. You know, I don't care if people want to live in a communist society or a capitalist society. I don't care if they want to live in a democratic society or an authoritarian society. That's all really irrelevant to me. The only thing I want is to provide people with the choice to choose the society they want to live in themselves, right? So yeah, maybe local voting could be a great thing for those who are into that sort of things, you know, and that's about it.
And that might help us avoid some of the conflict that would necessitate mercenary military.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, you know, I mean, I sort of seen all shades here, you know. Okay, so when I was in Afghanistan, for instance, Afghanistan have a very long history of, in the villages, they are, you know, there are Pashtuns and there are Tajiks and there are Uzbeks and there are like multiple groups, all with their own code of law, right? And so so they always had a history of settling disputes through just their own code of law in the same village, in the same geographical area, and settling that quite peacefully because they knew that was how it worked, right? And then when the central government tried to install a sort of, you know, one model fits all, you know, then it all turned into crap.
Right, but that also makes them easy targets because they're city-states and they're distributed. America can just go in with drones and just start bombing the hell out of them, and so can other people locally to that area. That's been a huge problem for them.
Yeah.
Because they don't always cooperate, and if you're Christian and you're Sharia law, your dispute resolved.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what BitNation is trying to solve. That actually geography shouldn't matter that much, you know.
We started talking, so you live in Libya.
Yeah.
Libya had Gaddafi with supposed private mercenary army, and that's why the West went into attack. So I'm just seeing the same kind of scenario with BitNation. What would BitNation do to protect its citizens? Would it be the same as what Gaddafi did, according to what we see in the news here? Or because you said it was a failing system, are we trying to get the same system?
Well, I think BitNation defeats that system because we try to strip away, you know, the marriage between governance and territory to start with. Gaddafi wouldn't have been a thing in the first place in case he wouldn't have been a geographical ruler, right? So, like, look at Israel-Palestine, for instance. Why would I fight over territory if territory and governance is not connected? So, I think that's one of the major things that BitNation is trying to accomplish. It's to actually not make that a factor. No, not at all. It's actually the very opposite. I mean, it's through hyper non-localization. You know, it's through making, you know, through saying it doesn't matter where in the world you live, it doesn't matter what passport you have, it doesn't matter where you're born or where you're raised or anything like that. You still deserve to have the same access to international financial banking system, to the DIY governance tools, to all of those things. You still deserve to be able to deed your house or marry whoever you want to marry, and all those things, right?
I think the strength is in BitNation allowing access to for the developing world into the new economy, this new decentralized economy that brought on us right in front of our eyes, as opposed to trying to intersect with this old economy and trying to sort of say, oh, we're going to let you have banking, or we're going to let's take them straight to the, you know, let's make them jump as they did from without a telephone to a mobile. Let's make them jump straight to a decentralized.
I couldn't agree more with you. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're promoting Bitcoin all over the place. Yeah, I would never tell people to get a Visa card. You know, That would be insane. Really.
But can I just say one thing? So all the blockchain is a distributed database that has a state transition rule. No, at its heart, it's a distributed database that has a state transition rule. Its original name was a distributed timestamp server, and it has the ability to track the sequence of events over time. It wasn't really until Vitalik came along and said, actually, you can play around with the state transition rule, that people started to think about 2.0 products as putting everything in. But at the moment, as was said on on the blogs yesterday, all you're really doing is inscribing a message. You still need a way to contain the updates of that message. Just because you get married once doesn't mean you don't move on and get divorced and so on. So you still need a way of regulating that part of the code, and that hasn't been solved yet, even by Ethereum. And a lot of your developers are from Ethereum, is that right?
No.
No?
Not a lot, no.
But some?
No.
Okay.
Actually, one was, but...
Right, one, okay.
But no. No, I mean, BitNation and Ethereum is a lot more separate than people tend to think.
But Vitalik has been on some of the Word documents and stuff. And
Vitalik is giving very useful advice, which I truly appreciate. Vitalik is a genius, and I love having his input on things.
Yeah.
From my understanding, you may implement it on Ethereum, but it's not a... You're not
well,
the same project,
I mean, no.
You're the toolkit, so you can go on any blockchain. You, as you said, be forecast, so you're basically developing a toolkit.
Yeah, and I mean, we try to be blockchain agnostic, you know. So we're going to use several blockchains. We're going to use a lot of the Bitcoin blockchain. We're going to use the Ethereum blockchain. And we're also going to use some contracts like Codius, smart oracles that are blockchain agnostic. And because, I mean, there is a problem with every blockchain. No blockchain is perfect, and no blockchain is totally insulated from risk. So we have to like divide the risk between them, essentially. And yeah, absolutely.
So this is kind of by way of a comment from what I've heard tonight, but also I suspect that there will be some questions that follow on. So when I think about, you know, distributed governance and, you know, nation states, I look at, you know, you talked a lot about emerging markets. I looked, you know, if I think about things like M-Pesa, which was an NGO-driven microfinance program, the adoption, there was a value proposition for the people using it, but it was predicated on the availability of mobile phones and mobile networks, and the not having a safe way to transact or move money around. So, you know, when people talk about there's lots of problems here in terms of adoption or different methods of adoption or different governance models, I think it's a very good time right now, because if you look at emerging markets, if you look at the adoption of smartphones, for instance, and I've tracked this, it's starting to become very, very high. So the actual physical infrastructure is there for you. Plus, you know, in terms of, you know, the blockchain and the, you know, maturity of the technology people have been talking about, we will probably reach a point pretty soon where people can launch different things on top of generic blockchains. And also, you know, with the adoption of app stores, you know, the barriers to entry of creating these organizations on a distributed manner is very, very low, right? I'd be interested in your comments on this, because I think it's a very fertile ground, and, you know, maybe you won't be the only, you know, nation state or digital nation state to emerge. I think it's a very, you know, timely point in time where, you know, there could be many different governance structures emerge.
So one of the things that we're trying to look into for the future, which takes time and energy, so it won't be done anytime soon, but it's definitely one of our goals, is to go as low-tech as possible. Essentially, I mean, there are now some vendors who allows for Bitcoin transactions for SMS, but it's imperfect so far, because you still have to connect to internet at some point to redeem your Bitcoins and so forth. So it's very imperfect. But that's something we're striving to do, because, I mean, if you look at places like, for instance, Afghanistan, it's a 98% cell phone penetration, even in the most remote rural areas. And even in places like South Sudan, people may not have food for the day, but they have their Nokia. And yeah, so that is a huge priority for us. But it's going to take time to develop. It's going low-tech is actually much harder than going high-tech. So yeah, you know, it's hard to do Bitcoin transaction through walkie-talkies, you know.
Just before we go on, we've got about another 10 minutes before we close, so we should do a few more questions and start heading over to the pub soon.
So we could continue questions.
I reject your authority.
I wanted to mention something, that there's a BitNation Meetup group, and they don't have anyone who's organizing that at the moment, and the Meetup platform has set a 2 weeks deadline. So when in 2 weeks there's no one who steps up, then the Meetup platform will delete this group. It should be a pity, as it are 100 people. So
It starts to run automatically.
Who would like to volunteer? Ishmael, I nominate.
There's no one in 2 weeks, then I would at least keep it alive on this platform, but I'm not very confident that I can organize events.
It's easy. Bring everyone. Tell them there's a club. There's drinks.
Yeah.
All the
Try to arrive.
I mean,
nobody wants to be left out. Free
Yeah.
We'll get something going.
Free drinks sponsored by CoinScrum. Everyone arrives.
High five. I mean, I think the message really is to, like, do people want to have.
Okay, so I think the message, as far as when it comes to the BitNation sort of meetups and social network, is just to have a group of people who are interested in societal problems and who can see the blockchain being a solution for that and want to meet and discuss around that, right? That's the basics of it. It's much more so than a technology platform, or much more so than a startup or investment platform. It's just how can we solve these problems in our society together, you know, and with this technology that we all share.
Let's start talking afterwards. Everyone's interested. We'll all gather around you.
The Meetup platform has one official organizer for every group, and there are, I think, 4 or 5 co-organizers. So of course I can help, but
That would be lovely. Yeah, I mean, let's talk after this, you know, and let's share details and talk about it. That's fantastic. Thank you for highlighting that.
So I just want to get this clear in my head. Your vision for the future, is it that BitNation governs people, or that BitNation provides useful tools in order for people to organize themselves, to govern themselves?
So BitNation is a collaborative platform to create tools for DIY governance, do-it-yourself governance. We do not provide law. Like, we have a dispute resolution DApp, where people can choose their own code of law, their own arbitrators, etc. We do not dictate whatever law people choose. We do not dictate whether people should choose a capitalist or communist economic model. We do not dictate whether people should choose authoritarian or democratic platform. Nothing at all. The only thing we do is to provide the platform with the tools.
Any questions from someone who hasn't? One at the back. Do you want to come a bit closer?
I was going to ask about, because a lot of this stuff requires on internet access, and especially in some of the developing countries, what they have is maybe SMS or other stuff. Are you interested in trying to help some of the kind of extreme offline parts of the world to improve their thing as part of this at all? Is that within scope?
And just as part of that, can you be part of this just over SMS?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, going low-tech is definitely more challenging than going high-tech. So that's something that we're working on over time. You know, once we have funds and so forth, I would like us to, as a side thing, invest in mesh networks and those sort of things all over the world. But I mean, it's going to take time to go low-tech. It's very technically challenging. Right now, there is Bitcoin technology for that, but I mean, it's nowhere near to be like useful or practical. But anyhow, I mean, all over the developing world, more and more people are getting connected to internet, etc. It's spreading very quickly, and so even though some people are not, you know, a very big number of people are. So yeah.
Last question.
If you don't mind. On the question of the Bitcoin economy eliminates taxation. So is your vision for infrastructure development sort of private investment?
Okay, so we have one part of our services, which is insurance, and the insurance part is sort of collectivism, if you like, in the sense that it provides for unemployment insurance, in the form of a loan, pension insurance, and healthcare insurance. So the way we have structured it is that essentially it's a voluntary tax, right? So people who agree to pay that tax agree to pay a little bit more on every transaction they do on the BitNation platform, and that goes to a collective pot that then serves as a mutual insurance. So it's a voluntary tax, you know, if you want to call it a tax, right? And yeah, so that's how. Yeah, it's private insurance, yeah, but it's private collectivism, if you like, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a voluntary choice. Like, we don't force it on anyone who doesn't want to participate, and that's what we believe in, right? Like, we believe in voluntary participation. So, yeah, we're not against collectivism by any means, but we just want it to be voluntary collectivism. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been. Next up, we're going to wrap up here. If anyone can pay your tab before you leave, if anyone on the page, we're going to head over to the Crown and Shuttle, which is right next door, and start boozing in the beer garden. I've just put everything on your.
Okay, I would really love to buy an electronic cigarette, actually.
Yeah, you can buy cigarettes upstairs. You've probably got about 5 minutes, and you can take yours.
So there you have it, folks. There you have it. That was BitNation. Now everyone's rushing for the real reason they came here, to go drink alcohol. So, can you hear me, Jamie? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you. That didn't answer any of the questions that I have. I still want to have a talk with Susanne.
Well, we're going to have to get her on the show. What question did you have for her, by the way?
My question is, basically what this turned into was a talk about, well, what would happen if we have anarchy? Oh my God, gangs will attack us. And she doesn't speak English well enough to explain her solutions. She's not using the proper language to describe what the solutions are. I could have cleared up a lot of the questions that were being asked in a couple sentences. When she's talking about these private armies and mercenaries, what she really means to say is a neighborhood watch program.
Right,
we have in the United States. I mean, we're not talking about mercenaries. It's a neighborhood watch program where the people that live in that area just watch out for each other and things like that, and where the citizens are armed, like me. I carry a gun. It's not about forming these little armies or gangs. It's about self-responsibility and you know, self-defense and watching out for your neighbor, but not forming an actual mercenary group or an army.
I think that actually was. I think that actually was the implication, though. I think they are implying that there probably will be mercenary armies, and that was worrying a lot of people.
Well, there could possibly be, but they would have to raise money to fund that. Who's going to voluntarily fund an army?
And that's what's coming across for me. This whole event can be summed up in that now that we've all met Susanne and we've talked a lot about it over the last 24 hours in anticipation of this event, I actually see that she is very sincere. Like, she looks you in the eye, she's very clear, she believes in herself and she believes in this idea, even though to us on the outside it might seem like there's a lot of unanswered questions. A lot of the ideas that she got are not original either. Other people have had these ideas. If you just switch over to the mic, that might sound a little bit better. And so she definitely comes across as very sincere, very direct. She looks you in the eye. You know, she's clearly, her heart is in this. She really, really, really believes in this. But I think the question for me is, right now, XPN does not look anything like investable. You wouldn't even buy it as a novelty right now, because the execution on this crowdfund has been appalling. And one of the questions I was going to ask, and maybe we can have her on next time, was to say, what would you do differently? And since this project is forkable, although there's nothing to fork right now, what, could we fork it? Could we rethink this, go back to the drawing board, and have everyone like you, Jamie, go to the white paper and come up with some suggestions and some ideas, like you say with the neighborhood watch?
Yeah, and the other thing that I thought about it was, what she's talking about basically right now is Anarchy Club. They're talking about just getting a bunch of people together that believe in anarchy. And basically, it's forming a group of voluntary people that want to get together and voluntarily cooperate with each other and have some sort of legal structure and, say, okay, we're going to voluntarily recognize that we're going to do our business on a blockchain. That's the way I understand it, and I don't see this right now as being explained well enough to the public and being codified or having actual code that's been written or anything well enough.
No code has been written.
Invest money in.
And the communication for the whole thing, even the communication on this event was very sketchy. So I think.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Theo. We've wrapped up, and I'm just saying that the DNA of this whole project just feels like it needs a reboot. Lovely ideas, great, great diagnosis of the problem. Yes, to all of that. But you need to reboot this project, start again from scratch. And rethink a lot of these ideas and have more discussion about them before you go ahead and come up with the branding, come up with the website, the logo, all that. Don't do that first, get the discussion going first. I mean, it would work really, really well. I think the white paper's really good. The link is in the description below. You can go see it. You can take part. And of course, there's nothing stopping you from copying and pasting that and taking it somewhere else. And I tell you what else, one other thing I did like about her approach is that she's put it on Google Docs rather than GitHub, and we had that problem ourselves at the World Crypto Network. I first introduced GitHub, but it was countercultural to so many people. They didn't know how to use it, and so we didn't get the interaction. So we moved into Reddit and we moved into other places. So we do have to leave now because the actual venue is closing. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Brandon Johnson. Thanks so much, man. You're saying a private army is not a scary thing because it is not above accountability. It's not protected by government. They have no special rights. I'm just going to put that in for posterity. And also, Crypto Services asks, he got to the live stream late and was there. Did Susanne address the issue of the resignation? She did briefly on her own terms. She did bring it up after giving us the intro, and she doesn't seem to think it's a problem. All credit to her for turning up today, given the fact that things have been kicking off. You never know what things actually do behind the scenes. So I'm now being looked at by Hugh. Hugh's telling me I got to go. But thank you so much for being with us. Follow us at World Crypto Net, me at Mr. Chris Ellis, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.